The broad masses of the people have begun to rise up against the US-directed neoliberal economic policy and its extremely exploitative and oppressive features and consequences. It is our duty to further arouse, organize, and mobilize the people to repudiate this policy and to demand national and social liberation from those who exploit and oppress them under the slogan and dogma of the so-called free market. Thank you. You can...
So, are there questions? If there are a few, then we'll take a few first, and then we'll let the professor answer.
I find the Marxian perspective very clear on its critique of neoliberalism and the structural deficiencies of neoliberalism. But what I don't get clear is what is the alternative. In my listening to you, I don't get clear position on what is the alternative to neoliberalism, for example, apart from pointing out its deficiencies.
What is the alternative? Well, I thought that was not the main thrust of my presentation. The main thrust would be the critique of the neoliberal economic agenda. But along the way, I was able to mention even the utmost objectives of communists, no? Which they are not supposed to conceal. No? It is the overthrow of the bourgeois dictatorship, replacing with the proletarian dictatorship. Right? Those are jarring terms, perhaps, for liberal ears. It only means the socialist state must replace the capital state, because only by having the proper state to carry out the social change could you have even as far as socialism. Of course, the ultimate alternative is socialism, but we are in the trough of history. I have written an article tracing the ups and downs of the working class struggle since 1848, since the writing of the Communist Manifesto. And I was able to observe cycles of 30 to 50 years. And I think we have just finished one cycle of, we are about to be through with one cycle of the capitalist crisis, involving the 30-year dominance of the neoliberalism. It was a one-sided class struggle by the bourgeoisie, which is supposed to shun class struggle, and it's supposed to conceal it, obscure it. Whereas the working class were pummeled with notions, with a lot of propaganda about doing away with the class struggle. It was actually the bourgeoisie waging the fiercest class struggle. Now I think from now that the neoliberal policy has been proven bankrupt, and there's something new that has come up in the world. No? Over extensive areas, people are rising up, in the form of democratic movements, as in North Africa and the Middle East, no? And then you also have widespread armed revolutions going on in India and South Asia, especially. You find the armed movements in India and elsewhere, in Bhutan, in Bangladesh. Nepal has just, seems to have given up armed struggle, but in fact, it is utilizing the victories, the achievements of People's War in order to make certain reforms, but still under the banner of new democracy. And so I think the fight, the struggle in Nepal is not yet over. And because the Nepali comrades have done so many outstanding feats, no? So I hesitate to make critical remarks about their supposed giving up of the armed struggle, because imagine, they were able to get the largest chunk of the votes. No? It is something new, and yet this is a product of the People's War, and it could lead further to a higher level of People's War if the reactionaries would try to prevent. I would like to concretize in the Philippines. In the course of these the preparations for the formal talks in the peace negotiation, the other side said, we don't expect to beat you. The reactionary government representatives said, we don't expect to beat you. But neither do you expect to beat us, no? So you better think of coming to terms within the system, and that's the implication. But the effective, challenging reminder to the other side is, well, we may not yet be able to overthrow the entire system, but whichever is the ruling class, ruling clique, whichever is the current regime, is subject to the people's uprising. Look at what's happening now in various parts of the world. Well, but these do not yet are still far from leading to socialism. There are, advances in the democratic movement. We better have them. We better have them and not have them at all, because these are advances towards the goal of socialism, especially if there are working class parties conscious of moving towards a goal of socialism. It is just unfortunate that there is a big dip as some kind of a strategic retreat. Those that were the first to set up socialist societies will eventually be undermined by bourgeois currents called revisionism in the main, and so I think that was part of the rise. The downfall of the revisionist regimes were part of the rise of neoliberalism. Neoliberalism would be constituted an economic offensive against the working class and against the hope of having socialism ever. No? But I think, I used to say even in the period of 1960, period of 1989 to 1991, when the revisionist regimes were tumbling down, I said, the pessimism of capitalism is makes for my optimism in the socialist alternative. Unfortunately, the defeat of socialism internally due to revisionism and the imperialist countries riding high with their neoliberal offensive could bring us to the brink of not only to the brink, but probably to episodes of fascism and war. And the only restraint on war possibly is that the weapons are so powerful, and yet people are so mindful of the power of the weapons in the hands of the imperialists that they know they can, those weapons